Here we go. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bucks County Free Library's Tech Talk series. My name is Adam Gilbert Cole. I'm the District Consultant Librarian for BCFL. I'm standing in for our usual host, Matt Ribasik, who is the head of IT here at the library system. And I'm joined by our IT team, Pete and Zach, who are helping me run this. This is an ongoing series of talks about various technology-related subjects. And those subjects are chosen by you, the patrons. And we're going to try to answer any questions you have in the time that we have today. The Tech Talks are live monthly meetings on the second Wednesday of each month. They're both in person. Hello to everybody here in the room, and over Zoom. And if you are watching over Zoom and you want to join us in person, we have gatherings at our Bensalem and Yardley branches. So check the events on the calendar at buckslib.org. The next Tech Talk is on April 10th, April 10th on AI basics. And then after April's talk, we'll take a break in May so that we can poll everyone and ask for your input on the next round of Tech Talks that we'll be doing. Today's session is on protecting yourself from scams, and it is being recorded. So after each talk, the recordings are available for viewing on the BCFL YouTube channel. You can find the link on our website. Go to buckslib.org, click on events, and then the recorded Tech Talks. But do be aware, it takes up to a week or two to get up onto the YouTube channel, so just keep checking back if you don't see it there. If you can, hold questions until halfway through. We're going to take a break. It'll give me a chance to get a drink of water and take a breath. And then when we come back from that break, we'll attempt to answer your questions as best we can. If after today's talk you still have questions, feel free to contact the library, speak with one of the librarians at buckslib.org/technology. They're glad to help anybody who needs it with your devices. All right, so let's get started on our topic for today, protecting yourself from scams, specifically scams related to technology. We have a few things to talk about, but before we get on to specific things, I wanted to talk a little bit about what people are looking for when they're trying to scam you online. Right? It seems a little nefarious that people are sending out these emails and these links and trying to get you to click on them. And it can be a little cloudy why they're trying to do this. There are a few things that they're trying to do. And the easy answer is that they're looking for your account credentials. So that username and password that you use to log into different services. Usually your email account, because if they get access to your email account, they get access to lots of information about you. Personally identifying information, where you bank, your contacts, so that they can continue to spread the scams farther. Sometimes they're trying to get a link in front of you that you're going to click so that you will download malware onto your computer. We'll talk about some technology terms in a minute. And then they're also sometimes trying to get you to take part in confidence scams. There are people who are trying to get you to fall for fake job opportunities that you have to pay for training for, or they're trying to get you to fall in love with them and they're scamming you out of information online that way. These are all some of the things that people are trying to do as you are going about your business on the internet. And so we're going to break this down a little bit by email, by text, by website, and so forth. But first things first, let's talk about some terms you're going to run into as you go about learning more about scams online. The first is phishing, which I think most people have heard of in today's day and age, but let's define it for you. Phishing is the act of sending an email that falsely claims to be from a legitimate person or organization. I'm sure you've seen these in your inbox before. This falsely claiming to be somebody that you know usually is combined with a threat or a request for more information. It can seem really urgent, that your account is going to be closed, that you have a balance that's due, information is missing, and they're really trying to get you to click on links or respond to them with personally identifying information. Second is smishing, which is very funny to say, smishing. Smishing is phishing that's done over text message. SMS is the protocol that people use when they send text messages. So it's a combination of phishing and SMS, smishing. So you're getting phished on your smartphone or your device. We also have malware, which I made reference to before. You've heard malware over the course of your computing life in various different ways. It can be a virus, it can be spyware, it can be a keylogger, which tracks all the key presses you make on your computer. A big one these days is ransomware, which encrypts all of your files and your hard drive so that they can demand a payment from you. That's malware. It's usually downloading some kind of malicious software, malware. And then we're also going to talk about 2FA or MFA, which is two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. They're sort of the same thing. This is a form of electronic authentication that is on top of what you're usually using when you're logging into a service. You're logging in with your username and your password. A lot of services have implemented a second factor of authentication to prove you are who you say you are. Sometimes that's in the form of a code that they're going to text to you, and you have to put that in. Sometimes it is a prompt on your YouTube app or your Google app on your phone. It's really just a second layer of security to make sure you are who you say you are when you're logging into their services. All right, so I'm going to talk about some more things. That's the basics of our glossary, but if you have questions about anything else that comes up, please, you can hold your questions until we get to the break and then email them in so that we can deal with them in the second half. All right, so let's talk a little bit about email scams. We talked about phishing, and we're going to start with a few demonstrations of what phishing looks like in your inbox. We have here a picture of a phishing attack that someone has received in their email inbox before. This claims to be from Amazon, although we have circled on the screen some very basic flags that should tell you that this is obviously not from Amazon. Things that phishing attacks usually use are abuses of trust. In this case, they're abusing your trust in that they're trying to represent themselves as being from Amazon, the company. There are very few of us these days who do not buy things from Amazon, so we're used to seeing those emails in our inbox. In this case, on the screen, you can see that the email name says service@sup.amazon.com. It looks like it could be an official Amazon email, but in the second circle, you can see that the email address that it's actually from, no reply.moiti, in all kinds of jargon gobbledygook there, that is the actual email address that's sending the email to you. One of the things that you can do to protect yourself from scams is make sure you look at those email addresses very closely. You'll usually see a clue in those domain names. The Amazon.com is the domain name that the email address is coming from. A few other clues in the email itself here. You can see lots of misspellings inside the text itself. There's no big company in the world that's going to allow some kind of email like this past the copy editor and get into your inbox. They're not capitalizing the word Amazon, for instance. They've misspelled the word to. And then there is a link at the bottom that is asking you to verify your account. This is a very common tactic in email phishing schemes. Almost no online service is going to ask you to verify your account by clicking on a link in the email address, especially if you are not expecting to receive that email. An unexpected email is the first sign of a phishing campaign. All right, so that's an easy one from Amazon. We also have one received in Gmail. In this case, there are lots of phishing campaigns that get sent out that are posing as Google Documents shares, Google Spreadsheets shares. And this one especially is displaying a very common tactic in all of these scams, a sense of urgency. They're trying to prey on your emotions, make you panic, and get you to click on these links. In this case, you can see on the screen that this person wants to share urgent information with you. Well, were you expecting urgent information from Dr. Brown at axyk78.xyz? Um, Probably not. And you can see that that email address is pretty out of the blue. You're almost certainly not interacting with someone from the website axyk78.xyz. All right, and then one last phishing email to demonstrate here is another common one, and this one is a little trickier. You'll get these emails from time to time telling you that your password has changed, or that someone has tried to log into your account, or another security concern, again, trying to make you panic and click on links. In this case, I included this one in the talk because I think it's a little more nefarious. It looks pretty official, and they are really playing up that sense of trust that you might have in Microsoft. Again, if you look at the email account, this one I think passes a couple of sniff tests, unless you really know what you're looking for. msupdate.net. You know, if you don't know how Microsoft deals with information online, you could easily fall for that, right? It's not from Microsoft.com, but it looks kind of official. In this case, what you want to do is ignore the email, go to Microsoft and try to log on to your account directly. Don't click anything inside the email. Verify with the service provider themselves something has happened. Almost always, you want to avoid clicking on links in your emails and going directly to the websites that you interact with. All right. Think about any questions you have about phishing. We'll get to that in the second half. For now, we're going to go on to those that really common plague that we all deal with, which is scam texts that we get. That very funny word, smishing. Smishing we deal with all the time, and maybe even more than phishing these days, because we carry those devices around with us 24/7. You'll get those phishing attacks in your inbox in your smartphone, but you may not have your alerts set up on your phone pinging you constantly. I know I like to get my alerts for my texts all the time, and so this is a very common thing that we all experience these days. All right, so things that happen in text that don't always happen in an email attack are some very common campaigns. You'll see a lot of posing as the IRS. People respect and trust the IRS, and there might not be a more feared name in the government bureaucracy than the IRS. And so you'll get people posing as the IRS, trying to get you to click on a link, call them back so that they can pose as someone working at a phone bank for the IRS. And especially in the case of these text campaigns, they're really going to play up that sense of urgency, that sense of threat to you. In this case, you see an arrest warrant is going to be issued for you. And if you stop and think about that for a second, you're never going to have someone communicate that an arrest warrant is going to be issued in your name over text. They don't let the people know ahead of time that they're issuing a warrant in their name so that they can run. This is really meant to scare you into responding and hoping that you're not savvy enough to realize that this kind of campaign can happen to anybody. Another very common one, and this one crosses over between phishing and smishing, is that they will pose as your bank. A lot of us have alerts turned on for our accounts that let us know that somebody tried to use our account at a various place. Is this fraud? And that is a very common vector for somebody to come in and try to steal your account credentials. In this case, we're looking at somebody posing to be a bank in the UK, but they're not identifying themselves in their text. They're not saying, hello, this is so and so with bank. They're just saying, click on this link here. And that is not an official domain name for the bank itself. This is a pretty obvious one to me, but I think that, it's easy to fall for this sort of thing. So we all try to learn. And then I think one of the more common ones that we get these days now, I know I get this fairly often on my phone, is a text that is posing as a delivery service. A lot of times it's FedEx, sometimes it's USPS, but they're trying to get you, again, to click on a link so that they can harvest your credentials, your online username and your password, or download something to your phone or computer that will run malware in the background. You can get text notifications, and I think one of the things that confuses people a lot is that text notifications for our deliveries come through more and more these days. You just have to make sure that you know when things are coming to your house so that you're waiting for the notifications to come. Again, if you are not expecting a delivery and you get a text notification saying that a delivery is coming, go to the service provider's webpage and check on the delivery notification there. Ignore the text itself. All right. Those are two of the engineering schemes that people have for getting your credentials online. The other ways that people scam you online, we're going to look at some websites a little bit on some demonstrations. But first, I wanted to show you some tools when you're using your web browsers on your computers for identifying how to know when you're using a secure website. So let's take a look at Facebook here first. We're going to take a look at our different browsers down here at the bottom. Right now, we're looking at the Firefox browser, but this is pretty common across any browser that you're going to use on your computer. And the browser is the program that you use to access the internet. There is, when you're using the internet, a protocol called HTTP. Has everybody heard of that here? HTTP before? Okay. Most websites these days, or any website worth its salt these days, uses the secure layer, the secure version of HTTP, which is HTTPS. You know that when you're looking at your computer with this little shield up there in the top corner, this button that you can click right there, that drops down a box. This is common across all the different browsers. And actually, I'm going to zoom in on that real quick for a second. Is that showing up right? It is not. I think I might be looking at... Nope, didn't show up. All right, we're going to have to hope that it's not demonstrating on Zoom. All right, so does everybody see that little shield up at the very top bar there next to facebook.com? Yeah, okay. That is the little icon that's telling you that you are communicating with a website that is using that secure layer of communication back and forth with your computer. What that means is your data is encrypted. It's locked down. Anybody who's sniffing out that data between your computer and the server you're talking to is not going to be able to figure out what the data is going back and forth. You can use this little icon up there at the top on any of your browsers to make sure that you are communicating securely with the websites that you're trying to interact with. There are also ways for you. We're going to switch over to the Chrome browser, and we're going to go into the settings for Chrome. I'm not sure why that's not showing up on screen. Do you guys know? Okay. Bummer. Well, I tell you what, we are, I guess, gonna skip that section. And I'll try to work that out at the break, and I'll try to demonstrate when we come back together. But let's talk about ways that people try to get your information or scam you on the internet. One of the ways, and one of the very common ways these days, is what you're looking at right now on screen, and that is social media. Social media is just another place where people interact, where con men and women can come in and try to steal your information. Facebook especially, but any online platform where you can send messages back and forth and connect with people, um, is another place where you should be exercising a healthy dose of skepticism. Anytime that you are getting a friend request on Facebook from someone you don't know, take a step back and analyze who that person is and where it's coming from, and think about whether or not you are getting some kind of message from someone who may or may not be who they are. Facebook Marketplace, a lot of scammers will try to get your credentials for Facebook, list things on Facebook Marketplace, and then try to use your account to transfer money from Facebook, from your account to their account. And this happens on all kinds of social media, not just Facebook, but it is common, I think most common on Facebook. Another place that you will see scams on websites is all over the internet. Anytime that you type in a website address in that top bar, say you accidentally type in Amazon with 2 N's.com, Amazon may not own Amazon with 2 N's.com. Somebody else may have bought Amazon with 2 N's.com and will use it to redirect your website traffic to a fake website where they can harvest your information. Most big businesses these days, Amazon especially, have done their best to mitigate those kinds of attacks, but you may run across this online. And what usually happens is you get, say, some kind of big warning that pops up on your screen like this. I don't know if anybody has seen something like this before on their computers or on their phones, but a website can spawn this kind of notification that pops up, and it can get loud. It can sort of hijack your computer's beeps and whistles and scare you into responding. This kind of notification that pops up on your computer, again, is playing on that sense of threat, that sense of urgency that you have about your computer's data. And they want you to call this toll-free number because they want you to either pay them over the phone for some kind of service to your computer or antivirus to your computer, or they're trying to steal your credit card number. This is really common across the internet. And if you stop and think about it for a second, even though Microsoft is a very big business, they're not monitoring everything you do on your computer. And there's no way they have the kind of human resources in their organization to patrol the internet and everything that everybody does and warn them about scams. So when something like this happens on your computer, there are a couple things you want to do. The first is try to just close the window. Oh, you know what? I think I know why this isn't playing, guys. We'll have to do that when I come back, or when we come back for break. You want to close the windows. If that doesn't happen, or if you can't force the windows closed by clicking the X in the top right corner of the screen, you can force close the application. I'll demonstrate that when we come back from the break. I have to fix the connections between the laptops here as they're streaming. You can force close. That should close down any of these scam notifications that pop up on your computers. The other browser exploit, they call them, web browser exploit, that is common these days, is installing extensions inside your browser. This is a little less common and a little more tech jargony, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because I think it happens. You can install things inside your browser that make it look different, make it work a little differently. And some people have taken advantage of that and created a form of malware called browser extensions that will install in the background. You'll never know about it, except you'll see a notification on your screen that looks like this. This is also a pretty common thing. If you get a prompt on your computer that says something is trying to install and you haven't told your computer to install a program, close that window, step back, close the window, because this is a one-way gateway to getting that malware on your computer. In this case, again, they're trying to demonstrate or they're trying to play on that sense of urgency or threat to you. You have a system notification, important additions for your browser are downloading, and installation is in progress. If you try to close, that's not going to happen because they really want you to go through the whole process of installing that on your computer. All right. I think that's where we're going to end the browser portion of today's talk. Let's talk about one of the important ways that you mitigate some of these attacks over phishing, over SMS, over your browsers, and that is 2FA, two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. I just have a little diagram up here on the screen for what it is. We can get a show of hands of people here in the room who have seen this before. Have you used two-factor authentication before? Anybody seen this? This may be something I have to try to demonstrate. Oh, we got somebody raising their hand online too. Most services these days have this enabled, especially if you're dealing with a financial institution. If you do any kind of banking online, if you're sending money to someone, and I suggest if you have an email account that you set it up for your email also. You can go to Google and search two-factor authentication and the service that you want to turn it on for, and there's always instructions provided for how to turn this on. What it does is, like you can see in the diagram there, when you go to log into, say, your bank's website, you have a field for your username, usually an email address or something like that, but not always. And then your password, a very safe password. Make it longer than 6 characters. Make it as long as you can, as long as you're able to remember it or retrieve it. Say you have it written down next to your computer or something like that. I use a password management software. A lot of people recommend those these days, but that's maybe a little advanced for this talk. Once you have two-factor authentication turned on for these services, what they'll ask you to do is either they'll ask you to put your phone number in and they will text you a 6 or 7 or 8-digit code, some combination of letters and numbers that you then have to type into a prompt that they've displayed on screen for you. What they're hoping to do in this case is they're hoping that you are the person who has that cell phone in front of you, proving that you are who you say you are. And there are ways around this, but it's, for the most part, pretty secure. That two-factor authentication is really important, especially for your financial institutions. It is meant to keep people from just what's called brute forcing your password, which means they're just going to guess your password. They're going to run a program that guesses your password over and over again. As long as they don't have access to your cell phone and receiving those text messages, then you are safe from people trying to hack into your account. Two-factor authentication can also include some more advanced things than receiving a text. There are little, I wish I had my keys with me, but there are little hardware things that you can plug into your computer that prove who you say you are. You can use a password manager program that has it built into it that will create those 6-digit codes. And we can certainly discuss more about two-factor authentication if you have more questions about that. All right, and then let's talk about the final topic before we talk about, or before we go back over ways that you mitigate these risks, and that is the phone scams that you're likely to receive. I know that our robocalls have decreased a lot in the last year. We're not receiving quite as many. Your car warranty phone calls have expired, but you are still likely to get phone scams online. These are often actually combined with website scams that are popping up on your computer, but you may still receive these. In this case, our phone makers have done a pretty good job of displaying, as you see on screen, warnings about where these phone calls are coming from. if they can't identify, or if they have a way of noting that these phone numbers are calling lots of people in lots of different places, they're gonna let you know that it's likely a scam on the lock screen of your phone. Let's move on and talk about ways to mitigate all of these risks, because I think they're most important in the case of talking to an actual person. But we're going to go back and discuss them. All right, so we have ways to deal with all of these risks. And the number one rule when you are dealing with something that you aren't sure about online is step back and engage your sense of skepticism. Become a skeptic. Try to think through where this is coming from, who might be behind these phone numbers, these emails that are coming into your inbox. I think that is the number one way that you are going to mitigate these risks. But you also want to slow down and deal with the sense of urgency or the threat that is in front of you in that case. They are playing on your emotions nonstop, because that's one of the number one ways that they're going to get what they want. They're going to get your account credentials. They're going to get your financial information. I already talked about this, but when your spider sense is tingling, when you feel like something is off in the email that you received, deal with the service provider or the merchant directly. Don't click on the link in the email. Don't answer the phone call. Go to their website or look up their customer service number and call them directly, because then you are the one who is in control of the conversation at that point. You know who you are dealing with when you log into their website, when you call them directly. Definitely don't click on those links in your emails. And I gotta admit that I very rarely click on links in any emails that I receive, because it's just so fraught these days. You don't have a corporate IT department working behind you in your personal email. Gmail is doing its best, Outlook.com is doing its best, but there's only so much they can do to mitigate the things that are coming into your inbox. You want to make sure that you check the email address or the phone number. Like we saw in that original slide, double check that email address. Make sure that who they say they are is actually who the email is coming from. This is called spoofing in the case of emails. There's ways where they can make it look like they're coming from a legitimate organization. So that healthy dose of skepticism takes you far. Number one rule is never give out credit card numbers over the phone. Don't do it. Don't give out your credit card numbers over the phone. At least when you're doing it online, you can verify, as I showed you, that that little shield symbol or the little lock in your browser is showing that it's a secure connection to the website that you're trying to conduct business with. If you're doing it over the phone, you really don't know who you're talking to for the most part. That goes double for social security numbers, even the last 4 digits of your social security number, because that personally identifying information can be used in all kinds of ways to gain access to your personal information, your accounts online. And then lastly, on services for which you can use it, turn on that multi-factor authentication, that 2-factor authentication. I'll see if I can't get some kind of demonstration of that worked up for us here in the break. But you want to make sure that you have that turned on, especially for your vital services, or your financial services, because it's an easy way for you to say, I am who I say I am when you're dealing with the bank. Lastly, if you get something in your email or, well, especially in your email, but on your phone, you can and should report it as junk or spam messages on your phone or in your inbox. You can do that inside all of the service providers for email and on your phone. A lot of us have seen it, but you can, as you go to delete the text message, it'll say delete or delete and report as junk. please do that, because the more people that report that information, the easier it is for Apple or AT&T or Gmail to identify who is the bad actors interacting with our devices. You also, just as a baseline of operating, you want to keep your devices as up to date on their software as possible. So you can update your phone or your computers. And the easy way to do that is to check back through our previous Tech Talks where we've discussed how to do that. Your devices will get prompts for when they need to be updated, but please do go back and check. Matt did a great talk on iPhones, how to update them, and other devices. All right, so we are going to take a 5-minute break so that I can get a bit of water and let you email questions in or ask questions. And then we'll come back at 2:40 and attempt to answer all your questions, everybody. First question on my list here is someone asks, they'd love to know how to better protect my cell phone number. Any recommendations? This is a tough one because cell phone numbers are meant to be listed privately, but they can get put out there. Say, you have it registered with a service and that service gets hacked. The information can get harvested. You are pretty safe from having your cell phone number, unless you are a very high risk individual. You're the chief information officer for some Fortune 500 company or whatever, and someone is trying to hack the SIM card on your phone, which is a thing they can do. You shouldn't worry about it too much. Your cell phone number is assigned to you, and it's likely to be safe for you. We can also do a little more research and try to get back to you directly about that one. Our next question is, has there ever been an instance of a password management site being hacked or having a security breach? And the answer to that is yes. The password service LastPass was in fact hacked, and they sort of slow rolled information about the hacking out as they discovered it. There are a few password management services that are not LastPass that I feel like are safe and that I can recommend, but do your research into the services that you're looking for. The one I personally use, and you can only take this as a personal recommendation, not from BCFL, but I use a service called 1Password. 1Password, the number 1 and password. You can put it on all of your devices, computer, phone, across the panoply of devices that you have. And the encryption standards that are built into it are really robust. And so I think that it's a great service. It is not free. And so in the case of almost all services that you use, think about it from the standpoint of, if it's free, then you're not the customer, you're the product that someone is selling your information onto another service. All right. So that's the one that I do know about. LastPass, it has been hacked. I don't know of any others, but we could certainly research that some more. What's that? 1password.com is the website for the service. We have another question is, what if I do respond in a panic and do click on a link? Is there anything to do to remedy that? The initial response is totally understandable. We were having a conversation here during the break about how, the entire purpose of these scams is to prey on your emotions. People will, there's a lot of social engineering that goes into this, where they try to find out as much about you as possible so that they can figure out what is the best method to get your information. If you do respond in a panic and you click on the link, the first thing you should do is close out that window, log back in, change your password for your services. Change your password for your email first, change your password for all of your financial institutions, and then turn on two-factor authentication if you haven't done so for all those services. After you've done that, you can run a virus scan on your computer. Most of us have a Windows computer, but you can also run these on Macs if you have a Mac at home. It will see if you've downloaded anything in the background that you didn't know about, that malware that gets installed without our knowledge. And then in the future, just go forth with like I keep saying, a healthy dose of skepticism. If you get an email that Uncle Rodney is traveling in Russia and is stranded and needs you to buy, I don't know, Google Play gift cards for the App Store. I mean, chances are pretty good that Uncle Rodney's not in Russia and doesn't need those Google Play gift cards to buy apps on the App Store. They focus on gift cards these days, primarily because they're not trackable. Once they get those gift cards redeemed, they've got them, and they're impossible to reverse. You've already spent the money. They've got the money in their accounts. It's gone. So they focus on those things. Those are the things that I would do. I would change my passwords immediately for any services that are vital to you and that have identifying information, and then scan your computer. And a follow-up question, or sort of related question, I should say, is, does antivirus software help? With my new computer, I was advised I didn't need McAfee or whatever, that the computer had antivirus on it. And that is true. Windows computers these days, Windows 10, Windows 11 computers have Windows Defender built into them. At some point, Microsoft decided that they needed to take this threat seriously, and they update your computer with what's called virus definitions. They're actively scanning your computer for these kind of threats being downloaded to your computer. And so I think as a baseline, as long as you're operating, on a Windows computer that has that turned on, you probably don't need an extra virus protection program running on top of that. Yeah, yeah. Our IT guys, Pete's nodding at me. He says yes. All right. Are there any other questions? I don't have any more from the crowd. I did say I would try to demonstrate those. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
To unsubscribe.
Yes.
Your email address.
Right. So this is a complicated one. All bulk mail services, there are legitimate bulk mail that you get from stores, from newsletters that you signed up for, that sort of thing. I'm sorry, I should repeat the question, by the way, in case you didn't hear it online. The question was, you're in your email and you want to unsubscribe from something, and you click on that link and it asks you for your email address. Is that the action? What do you do in that case? And I said, this is a complicated one because most of those services are, I think, legally required that when you click that unsubscribe button, you should not have to put information into the box. It should automatically take you to a website that says your email address has been unsubscribed. If they're asking for your email address, it's right to ask, because that you have a healthy dose of skepticism already. You're saying, oh, I got an email from them. I'm supposed to click this link to unsubscribe, and now they're asking me to put my email address in. In some cases, they may not have set their service up properly, and they really do need your email address to unsubscribe you. But I would close that browser window, open up that service, and then try to find where to unsubscribe in that case, because they may be trying to harvest your email address for their purposes. Especially if you click that link and it says, enter your email address and password to unsubscribe. I mean, red flags are, going off all around you at that point. You want to close that browser window and navigate right to the service itself. Yeah.
Another question. You want to delete something, said put it in spam or junk.
Yes.
Yes. Not into trash.
You delete it. I don't know how it works on most services these days. If you flag it as spam or junk, I believe it automatically deletes it. Is that true? In Gmail, do you guys use Gmail?
It's automatically sent.
It automatically sent it to spam. Okay. Yeah, you want to flag it and then delete it afterwards. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, essentially what you're doing is you're helping Google learn to identify, or Microsoft or whoever is your email provider. You're helping them learn what the new spam techniques are, because this is a constantly evolving thing. They're playing whack-a-mole as they go through, there's only so much they can do. I did see a hand up there in the, oh, we don't have chat. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You do have to email if you have a question, everyone. Let me put that back up on the screen. It is techtalks@buckslib.org if you want to email a question in. Let's go back here. All right. While those questions come in, I'm going to see if I fixed everything and go back and demonstrate what I wanted to show you with those browsers. All right. Nope, still not working. Oh, there it is. Okay, great. Okay, so up there on the what's called the URL bar or the address bar, you'll have for your different browsers, it looks a little different. There's a little icon next to the website name. In the case of Edge here, it's a lock. In Firefox, I believe it's also a lock. And in Chrome, it's a little, they look like sliders because they're trying to tell you that you can click on that and get some information about the website. If you click on that lock, you can see up on the screen where it says connection is secure. And so in this case, you know that the information leaving your computer, going to Facebook's server is encrypted, it's secured, and it's right here. Can you see that right there on the screen under the mouse? Great. That way you know that the information you're sending is encrypted. It can't be sort of broken the code can't be broken between you and the server that you're talking to. This also tells you, and all browsers do this, sort of what's happening on the website behind the scenes. In this case, it's telling you that you have a couple of cookies that are in use. These are things that websites set on your computer that can help you log in faster. In some cases, they're used for other purposes. And then they also are telling you if a website is trying to track you. In this case, we've turned on tracking prevention on my computer here so that Facebook can't continue to track me as I go across website to website. That's what I wanted to demonstrate. I wanted you to be able to see that information there. So if you move your mouse up to that little icon right there and click on it once, it's going to drop down. And actually, if you want, I can show you what it looks like in the other browsers too. So on Facebook, it's right there in the same spot, but you can click on it and it's going to tell you connection is secure. You can check on the cookies in the site data, and then you can change site settings. You use Chrome? Yeah, so that's what it'll look like on your computer at home, is those little, to me, they look like little sliders that you slide back and forth. Yeah.
I use the antivirus program.
Yes.
In my company. They try to sell a program for clean up the cookie. Is that important to clean up the cookie?
Oh, it can be. So those cookies, the question is, his antivirus program has something that lets him clean up his cookies in his browser. There are settings in your browser, and if you Google, cookies cleanup in Chrome or cookie cleanup in browser, you can get more information about this. Cookies are little files that websites store in your browser, and in some cases they're useful. They can be, and correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, at any point, but they can be used to help you log into the service easier. They'll help you, it'll remember your username or something like that. They can also be used to track you across the websites that you visit. So Facebook, will have a way of knowing which websites you've gone to visit. They can use that information to show you advertisements that they, are selling to people that are trying to get product advertisements in front of you. You don't need to do that, but it creeps me out when people are tracking me across the internet. And so I try to set my browser settings so that it uses as few cookies as possible and it cleans them up regularly. So yes, it doesn't hurt to use that, and I think it probably helps. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I get mail word, I try to shut down the window.
Yeah.
It's hard to close it.
Okay.
Which way? Is there any way to do it? I just unplug it and.
Like when you get those bad notifications, the virus warnings. Yeah, that's the other thing I needed to show you. So if you can't, I was saying, when you get those bad notifications, if you can't close either by clicking on the red X in the top corner or by closing the tab itself, you can force it closed. Yes.
Which way?
Let me show you. So on a Windows computer, if you still have access to the start menu, you open the menu, and if you type in, oh, can you not get activity monitor on this one? Oh, task monitor. I'm thinking Apple, Mac, task manager. So on a Windows computer, it's called task manager. On a Mac, it's called activity monitor. You can open this up and you can look for the program that's open. So in this case, say we have a bad notification that's blaring at us in Edge, and we can't manage to get it closed because they've hijacked it. It's covering the whole screen. You can open Task Manager and end the task. So if you look on screen.
You cannot move. You cannot
Oh,
get to
in which case, Alt F4. You can. So there's a keyboard combination you can push. Hold down the Alt. You can do that one too, but same thing. Try Alt and the F4 button. F4. Alt F4 is the shortcut to close the currently open window. It force closes whatever has the focus of the computer at that time. If that doesn't work, then you're doing it right. Unplug the computer.
Yes, the last resort.
Yeah, the last resort is unplug your computer for sure. All right. That brings us to just about 3 o'clock. So if we don't have any other questions, one more.
Leave or stay on the site. You know, you have the option,
Oh, I see.
leave or stay this page.
So if it's prompting you when you try to close it, is that what you're saying? And you get that little box that says leave or stay? I mean, it depends on what you're doing. If you're typing a document inside a window and you go to close it and it says leave, we're still doing something, leave or stay, and you want to save that work, make sure you click stay. A lot of times you get those prompts and they're really just trying to get you to stay on their website because, the internet is run on advertisements. They're trying to get you to click on things. And so they want you to stay on their website. It's almost always safest to leave. Yeah. All right. Last question. Someone asked, they get a lot of explicit emails unsolicited, and I'm afraid to open to unsubscribe. How do I stop these emails? You are very right to be hesitant to open those emails and click those unsubscribe links because chances are pretty good that those links aren't even going to take you to an unsubscribe page, that they're meant to trick you into clicking them to take you to one of these websites that will download malware, or they'll ask you to put your information in. You can mark it as spam, in which case it will disappear from your inbox at that point and hopefully teach your program to recognize it as spam in the future. You can block the sender, although that gets a little bit like whack-a-mole because they're changing their email address every single time they send it to you. Unfortunately, you do, like operating on the internet, sometimes have to put up with cruddy stuff that happens. And in which case, just click that delete button and move on with your day, I think. Don't open it. Don't click any links in it. Click delete and let it go. Do you guys have any recommendations for that one? What's that? Yeah, good. Okay. All right, everybody. That brings us to 3 o'clock.